Welcome to The Family Business, a podcast about football and life from the perspective of a coach and his daughter. I'm Stephanie Turner, and I'm here with my dad, Norv Turner. And joining us today is two-time Pro Bowl quarterback Trent Green, a leader who played 15 seasons in the NFL. He's seen the game from every angle: starter, backup, mentor, and now national broadcaster. His story isn't just about talent, but resilience, intelligence, and a dedication to the game of football. Trent, thank you so much for being here.
I'm glad to be here. It's great to see you both.
Great to see you too. So we love a great football story here on the show, and I think that you have a pretty incredible story. Your trajectory in entering the league and the career that you had, and now as, over 15 years being a broadcaster. So I'd love to just sort of unpack that and hear that from your perspective. I know I first met you when you were the third string quarterback for the Washington Redskins. And that was 1995 that you came onto that team. But I think my dad first met you when, correct me if I'm wrong, when he worked you out in college.
Yes.
At Indiana, right?
Yeah, Indiana's changed a lot over these last few years. Now, they weren't giving out NIL money out back in 90. What was that? 92, 93?
Yeah. 92. You were working me out. That's right.
So
Getting ready for.
I came in and on Indiana's field there, that old field turf field, and put you through all the things. And I'm extremely impressed with a couple of things. Obviously, your ability to throw the football, but your ability to move. And then watching all the tape, you were so competitive, and you had to be because in Indiana the protection wasn't probably the best in the Big Ten, and it was. You were playing some really good teams, but we jumped forward to the draft, and I was on the phone with you late in the draft.
Yep. You were at Dallas.
I was in Dallas,
yeah,
and we had you as a prime guy. I was pushing to draft you, but Jimmy probably wanted another defensive end or a DB or something. So I was on the phone with you, and I don't know the exact details, but I do know that I said, hey, listen, it's getting close now. If you're not drafted, we really, want to have you come in as a free agent. And you said, hold on, coach, I'm getting another call. The Chargers are going to draft me. And I said, don't tell anyone I called, and hung up, because that is illegal to be talking to someone before the draft's over. But that's pretty accurate, isn't it?
That 100%. Yeah, we I thought that I was going to go. We had a great workout, great conversation in Bloomington during the draft process, and I knew what your offense was. I loved your offense, and glad that I eventually got to get there. But yeah, that draft was, well, first off, the reason I got drafted was late in the draft, and so I think when you were in Indiana, or when you came and worked me out, was Jack Riley there also from the Chargers?
He probably was, yeah.
So I think the Chargers probably knew that you guys were so they Bobby Beathard ended up making a late trade to move up to get me at the end of the 8th round, back when they had 8 rounds. So yes, the phone, you're like, hey, don't tell me. So because you brought up the story, I can tell the story. But yes, you're like, hey, don't tell the Chargers that we were talking. So but yeah, it's much different climate at Indiana. In terms of what's going on right now with the football program. But it's great to see how well they're doing. But yeah, that was. I definitely remember you getting there. It was a windy day in Bloomington when you worked me out, and so just had to battle the elements at that point.
And then you come to Washington, and were the third string quarterback. And I've heard you say this before. I've heard you tell the story about learning the offense and staying late and stealing the tapes and having the video guys make copies of it, which I'm sure, I mean, you can tell that story again, but I'm sure that if you would have asked, I think he would have let you make copies of the tapes. Do you think you would have, Dad?
Well, we might have, yeah. We would. It was so much different then. It was all beta, and there were actual tapes.
Yeah.
Now everything's
Digital, yeah.
digital and all that.
You just
But
click it
the
and
one thing that so I followed you, and obviously you were in San Diego, and then I think they released you in your second year,
Right.
And you spent some time in Canada, or
Correct. Yep. I was with the BC Lions for about a month.
yeah.
So they had their starting quarterback hurt their shoulder, and they said, "Hey, he's going to be out a couple weeks." And at that point, I was on the street. Just Julie and I had already been married, and we moved back to Indiana because that was a place to work out, and as you guys know, is cheaper than San Diego.
Right.
Bloomington, Indiana was. So,
well,
so
the thing that's crazy is we'd get lists of different players are available,
Yeah.
and your name pops up. So I went in with our guys and said, "This is a guy I'd be interested in," and he's, it'd be, well, why are you interested in him? And they had ties because of Bethard with San Diego, right. So I don't know that it was that their intel was great. And I said, well, to be honest with you, I go back to the workout we had with him, and I think he fits what we want to do, and he's a guy that's going to get a lot better. And you came in and worked out, and it was I'm glad you couldn't hear him. It was there's nothing special. I said the guy's got a chance to really be good, and we need to sign him. So we sign you, and then we had Heath Schuler and we had Gus Farad, and Gus had played well, and Heath was trying to overcome injuries and a number of other things. And the hardest working guy in the building was Trent Green. And it didn't matter if it was football, if it was the weight room. You look out there in the afternoon and you're out throwing to somebody. You were on a mission to have a chance to play, and that's all you can ask for is a chance to play. And that's why you played, as Steffi said at the introduction, played 15 years in the league. But it's such a great story for any young guy. And I look at these quarterbacks now, and everyone's so impatient that they don't play well for 2 months, or they struggle as a rookie, and everyone's ready to, oh, he's a bust. We went wrong. It's a process to learn how to play in the National Football League, and it's a lot different than playing in college, and especially now it's a lot different than playing in college. So, people have to just understand that and be more patient with the whole process of developing quarterbacks and give them opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I remember coming in. I don't know if you remember what you told me on my visit. I went with Cam Cameron over to work out. There was an indoor soccer field. It was in February because there wasn't an indoor facility at the time. And I think the weekend you guys brought me in, it was bad weather. And so Cam went and worked me out at this indoor soccer facility throwing around. And I remember our conversation before I left, because I had a couple other places that were interested in signing me that offseason just to come in and compete for the third spot. And I remember you told me, listen, our situation is, because it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't the best situation because you had two younger quarterbacks than me, and you had two guys that had already started in their rookie year. So they had younger and they had experience, which I didn't have either. So it was, you told me, you're like, listen, what you need to do is you need to get on a roster, and you need to, the longer you can last in this league and just come working. He's like, we don't have a third quarterback. Yes, they're younger than you, and yes, they've got some playing experience, but we don't have a third. So we are going to bring in other people to compete for the third spot, but we don't have somebody here that we've been there. And some of the other places had like the vet guys that were the third string quarterbacks. And so you said, this is the best situation for you because you're going to get a jump start on everybody else we bring in. We don't have anybody else in the building. Just come on in and get to work. And so that was great advice. And I'm glad I listened to it.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when you got that third string spot, did you have a vision of yourself being a starting quarterback? I'm just curious, like for, any young athlete in that position or just anyone in life going after any goal, hearing about someone's experience who, really achieved a big goal from a third string spot to a starter. Like, do you remember having a vision of yourself getting that spot? Was that a very clear goal? Like, I need to be the starter, or were you just taking it day by day?
So I think I'm gonna backpedal a little bit, because when I first got in the league, I think when you're in my situation, being the third to last pick at the bottom of the 8th round, and do I belong here? I remember that rookie year in San Diego. I didn't get any snaps. I didn't play. I was basically the third guy all year, and I remember watching other quarterbacks around the league, and that's when I first started to believe. It was when I got to that first training camp, those first mini camps, and then being in the preseason games and watching guys play throughout the league. I was like, I belong here. Like, this is something I can do if I work hard enough to get to that point. Then, of course, the following year I was released and I was on the street, and fortunately Norv signed me and brought me to DC. But I remember when I got to DC, so to answer your question, Stephanie, when I got to DC, I had made up my mind that I was going to do anything and everything I could, because you never want to, the what if stories, right? As I said, I was married. My wife, Julie, was super supportive and was just like, you know what? Let's try and get on another team, give it another chance. And if it works out, great. And so that's really what I did. So to answer your question, I was just trying to make the roster. And then I was trying to be the third. And once I made the roster, I made the third. And then I said, okay, if I just keep working at this, the mental aspect that we joked around about, going in and stealing some videos, because back then it was all on tape, right? It wasn't even on DVDs yet. It was on tape. So the only way I could get it to go home was, as you said, I would go in it. I would go into Norv's office, and I would, Aikman and all the guys in Dallas, I would get all their tapes from Dallas. I'd usually get like 3 or 4 of them. I'd go down to the video guys and say, hey, put this onto one VHS tape, because I didn't have a beta at home. Put these 4 tapes onto one tape. And then I would just gradually do that throughout the whole off season, to where I could just sit at home and watch tape and study. And, so it was, I was willing and wanted to do everything I could. The physical part of it, I love that part of it. I love competing, as you said, Norv. But it was just the experience of getting on the field. And when I did get on the field, I wanted to make sure I was ready.
And unfortunately for you, I was watching the Chiefs play when you were playing there, and the announcer was being so complimentary of you. And he said, even when he left Washington, took all of the Troy Aikman tapes that Coach Turner had. And I sat up, I was half asleep. I said, that no good son of a gun. I've been looking for those tapes for 5 years. And it was one of those announcers that gave you away.
Yeah.
But I didn't
steal your tapes. I stole what was on those tapes.
Yeah, he copied them. He didn't take that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think maybe you just misplaced them.
Hey, here's the thing though. I've got them in a box, right? I got them in a box in the storage. So if you want some of those,
I have it all on.
Now you have it digital. I still have mine
now,
on
but
VHS.
it doesn't do me any good, because I'd be better off if I still had tapes. I mean, unfortunately.
It's on a drive. He just doesn't know how to use the drive. That's it.
When I was the head coach, I had, or the other stops I had after that, I had a young guy there who all I had to do is yell for him, hey, Craig. And he'd come in. I said, I need all the third downs in the second half of these 3 games. And then bang, they'd pop up. Here's what you do, Coach. No, don't tell me. Just do it.
Show me. Just do it. Yeah.
But a couple good stories that I was reminded of the other day. It had to do with Cleveland and Sanders when he went into the game and he didn't get any reps with the ones, and all over the country they said, well, how couldn't they put him in the game? He didn't get any reps with the ones. And I told a couple of my friends the story that Trent, when you went in a game, I don't know who got hurt. I don't know what happened, but you played. Maybe it was preseason, but but I thought it was regular season. And you, after the game, said, I thought I did pretty good for not getting any reps with the ones. And I grabbed you downstairs the next morning, I think, and I said, hey, listen, the whole idea of being a backup quarterback is you don't get any reps with the ones. And the reason you're our second quarterback is because you can go in and play at a high level without having reps with the ones. And when you become the starter, you'll get all the reps with the ones. But don't ever again say, I thought I did pretty good, considering I didn't have any reps with the ones. No one even knows that. No one cares how many reps you got. They want you to go perform, and that's what you did at a high level.
Well, I got to give you the credit for that, because there were numerous times over those 4 years in DC, because I was third, I was the third quarterback all the way until that fourth year. Mm-hmm. But there were times in the middle of practice, you would just throw me in for a rep. And you didn't care if it was 30 degrees outside or 100 degrees outside, or if I'd been standing for an hour or not. You're like, get in there and run 844 Ricky, because, and I'm like, okay. And you just go and you jump in. And so really all of that kind of taught me that, hey, you better, no matter when that chance comes, and it would only be one snap. You go in there and run 844 Ricky, go in Bronco 844 Ricky. And then all of a sudden you go run it. You're like, okay, now get out of there and go stand back over there. And I'm like,
yeah.
So, I would go home and I would tell Julie, I would just be like, she's like, how'd practice go today? He goes, well, he threw me in for one. And I was like, and she's like, well, how'd it go? I go, well, I completed it. And then he took me out. I'm like, but all of those lessons, like through the course of those years, all that did was just kind of reinforce in my mind, being ready when those opportunities came up, whether it was one snap in a practice, whether it was one route in a 7-on-7, whether it was, hey, get in there like you did in the New York game in '98 in the third quarter. I'm on the headset. I was always on the headset with you, because before the coach, the quarterback, it was signals. So mm-hmm. I did the signals. And then when the coach, the quarterback, he kept me on there. And I remember you're like, now all this stuff you're going to hear on this headset, you can't share with the other players, because you're going to hear some stuff that you shouldn't be hearing. But I remember in that game in New York, opening day, all of a sudden you're like, Trent, go grab your helmet, get in. And I remember I looked down the line, because I'm on the headset. And so I'm looking down at you, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? I said, go get your helmet. So,
but you're like, wait, are you really? Are you serious?
I was like, wait a second. This is yeah. So thank you for having that faith in me. But all those reps, leading up to that is why when I did get the opportunity, I wanted to make sure that I, had no doubts about what I was going to go in and do.
Well, you were tenacious about it. And one of my other favorite stories, because I probably told this to a bunch of young quarterbacks along the way, we're playing Tennessee, and I think we were actually in Knoxville.
Yeah, it was a preseason in Knoxville.
Preseason, yep. Yeah, it was. None of us wanted to be there, but we were playing the preseason game there. And you were in the game in the second half and running. You scrambled and took off running and ran out of bounds about a yard short of the first down. You remember it. And I went crazy. I said, what the fuck are you doing? Excuse my language. I said, you're the third guy trying to get a job. Don't run out of bounds. No one cares if you get hurt. Just get the first down and prove it to all these guys. And you looked at me like you guys tended to look at me at times like I had two heads or something. But later in the game, we're down on about the 5-yard line, and you scrambled and took off straight up the middle and ran over two guys to get into the end zone. And I said, well, at least somebody listened to me a little bit, but it means something. And it's one of my pet peeves. A young guy gets a chance to go, and then the guys doing the game, you would never say this, well, he's got to take care of himself. He shouldn't be running into people like that.
Yeah, you'll never hear me say that.
It's a contact sport. And, quarterbacks now, they're 230, 240, they can take care of themselves. But
or at least get the first down and then slide.
Yeah. Those are lessons for a young guy that you obviously listen to.
It's I'm going to go back to even when I first got there. Another story that changed really the way that I viewed playing the position of quarterback is so that first season in '95 in that off season, you came walking into the meeting room because your meeting room was connected to the main coach's room. So Cam and I were sitting in there and we were going through protections. So you came in with your cup of coffee and you come walking in and hey, what are you guys going over? Because the video wasn't on. There wasn't any tape. We weren't talking plays. And Cam's like, well, we're just going over protections. We're gonna, figure out who's our hot throw, who's our side adjust throw, and you were just going through the progressions. And I've told this story a bunch. I don't know if you've heard it. You set your cup of coffee down and you said, I got a pointer for you. How about you learn? You dropped the F bombs earlier, but you dropped a few in this line too. You're like, how about you just learn where to go with the football and get the ball out of your hand? How about you worry about, if you're going to play quarterback in this league, you're going to take a hit. So plant your foot in the ground, know where you're going with the football, work on the progressions and where your quick throws are and where your big throws up the field. If you know where all that is, stop worrying about who's going to hit you. You're going to get hit every time. If you don't get hit on a pass play, that's a bonus. Just anticipate every time you're stepping into a throw, you're going to get hit. And if you don't get hit, that's a bonus that play. You didn't get hit. So it really changed the way I viewed it. And I use that same story to my boys when they were growing up and playing quarterback. I was like, not everybody has the mindset, hey, I'm going to stand in here and make this throw. I see this linebacker coming. I see this defensive end. I see the nose tackle that just threw away the guard. And you can see it. Like your eyes are still upfield, but you can see it and feel that you're about, that it's closing in on you. Mm-hmm. If you've got to be able to keep your focus and your attention downfield and step into a throw knowing you're going to get blown up. And I told my kids early that I said, listen, Norv told me this my first month that I was in DC. And it changed the way I viewed the position because that's just the reality of it. Now, of course, there's times you got to scramble and you got to move around in that. But if you know where you're going to go with the football, you've got to be able to step into it. And that was a valuable lesson you taught me my first month in DC.
Yeah,
it's if you happen to be in my TV room when I'm watching these games, and you would never say it based on what you just said, and the guy doing the color commentary says, boy, he's getting hit today. I jump out of my chair and go, they're gonna get hit. Quit. I mean, Troy would take a hit to get the ball thrown, and early, we were struggling in protection a little bit. He got hit more than he should have. And he'll say, boy, this guy's taking a lot of hits. I said, not you two, Troy. Well, I mean, come on. It's football. It's football. These guys have pads on, and it's just.
Well, now in the protections, they're not getting hit. They're not getting hit low. They're not allowed to get hit in the head or neck area, and they're not allowed to be driven into the ground. You've got to the defensive guys. I was like, we used to do drills in training camp with the defensive linebacker. Like when you're tackling, like you want to put your body weight now. And it's a great thing. Believe me, I would feel a whole lot better if all those times to the head, neck, legs, and big guys driving you into the ground. So it's a good thing from a health standard and a health standpoint. But yeah, it's the game is a little bit different. And Troy, you could probably put a highlight reel together of Troy throwing bang eights to Michael, getting hit in the mouth on that 5 hit and throw with the guy coming right up the middle. So it's he took his fair share of throws, but he stood in there every time and delivered it.
So then you were the starter in Washington with us, and then we weren't able to keep you, and you go to the Rams.
Yep.
And then,
Stephanie, that was a weird time because Jack Kent Cook had passed away.
Yeah.
The family foundation was, as Norv knows, was running the team. And so who's making what decisions? And there was,
right. There were a lot of things changing. They were trying to figure out who the owner was going to be. Yeah.
Right.
But you came in and played, and that was 98. And actually the Giants, we got going and we played we had a horrible start of the season, and I made a bunch of changes during our bye week, and we came out, and Giants were in first place, and you played great against them. We beat them, and then really finished the season strong. And I was in there, knowing that your contract was up, and pushing them. Hey, this guy, he's showing what he's capable of doing, what we expected him to do. We need to get this thing done. And quarterbacks weren't making $50 million a year then. I think
no,
they could have got you signed pretty easily. And then delayed. And then when Mike Martz, which I helped him get the job with
the Rams, yeah.
With the Rams as the offensive coordinator with Coach Vermeil, and John Shaw was the president, and he actually called me, and Ernie was pushing it, and Ernie Zampese. And I think there was a little whispering going on, hey, Trent, don't sign with these guys. We can go to St. Louis. They need a quarterback. And that was really hard on me, but it worked out. We ended up making a trade for Brad Johnson, and it's funny, the Rams were in '99 were first in the league in total offense, and we were second in the league in total offense with Brad Johnson, and we're running the same offense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the three receivers that they had in St. Louis, but we had tight ends and a running back and Stephen Davis, and Brad was a veteran quarterback, so we're pretty explosive too. But unfortunately, our guy got you. What was that? The last preseason game when you got hurt?
Third. It was the third preseason game. That's in that '99 season. So it was rolling pretty good at that time. But the weird thing about that on that hit is, so right before the half, Coach Vermeil had said, "Listen, we don't need to see any more. But based on this punt return, if we get it out far enough, I'm going to have you go in and work on the 2-minute. And if we don't, if it's bad, I'll just throw Kurt in there and we hand it the ball off a couple times and go to halftime. Cause I've seen enough." And I was like, that's whatever I'll play as much as you want me to play. And so sure enough, we got the punt return and was far enough out that they're like, "Hey, let's work on the 2-minute offense." And so after the third completion, I believe in the drive, that's when the hit to my knee and kind of changed the, history of a bunch of people. But,
so that, just for listeners who aren't up to date on the history, like that was what kind of opened the door for Kurt Warner to come in and be the starter and then have his sort of story become known, right? Another great football story of, but I'm just curious from your perspective, how that changed just your perspective on control and timing of your career. And like in hindsight or in that moment?
Yeah, it's I think the thing that was the hardest, and Norv, you can relate to this because I was with you for 4 years, is just it had taken me so long to become a starter and to finally have my team. Like all the times in the off season, I went into all 4 of those years as the third quarterback, whether it was Gustin Heath or Hostetler or whoever it was, I was always the third. So as the third, you don't speak up a lot. So you're not really like, you can do all the running, you can do all the running and lifting and practice and all that stuff, but you're not very vocal as the third guy because it's up to the starter to be the leader. So going to St. Louis and having that opportunity to go into an off season as a starter. So when I did end up getting hurt, I just remember on the field, I was more, I knew I was done because of all the stuff that happened to my knee on that hit. Mm-hmm. And I just remember I took my helmet off and put my hands on my face. And I just was like, I can't believe, it took me this long. It took me 6 years to be a starter. And so I just was sitting there going, okay, this can't be how this whole thing ends. And so I ended up having to attack the rehab like I did the 4 years in Washington, because ultimately I had 5 surgeries. I had 3 in the first 8 months. I had to have a 4th, but I told them before the 2000 season, I said, I'm not doing another surgery, because if I do, then I'm going to miss the next season. If I miss back-to-back years, then my career is done. I go, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So I said, put on a brace, whatever will limit me from, from hurting it any further. So, I went through the 2000 season knowing I was going to need another surgery, but I basically attacked the rehab and all that with the same mindset that I did the previous 6 years, because once I got to that point, I was like, okay, there's got to be more out there for me than this injury kind of ending everything. So fortunately for me, I was able to get another opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, I can only imagine how kind of devastating that was. And the just perseverance and will that it must have taken to say like, okay, I'm not going to just give up on this. And was it really that you just felt there was more? Like you felt like you could overcome it and still play?
I did. I am a person of faith, so I figured God. I put it in His hands, and I just was like, okay, if this is the end of the story, then show me what I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm just going to work as hard as I can. And as I said, after the fourth surgery and then the trade to Kansas City, just the rehab process that kind of went into that. It was more, as you said, Stephanie, the perseverance. I just knew there had to be something. There had to be something more. And using that platform, as I was able to, the rest of my career.
Well, the beauty of it was the move to Kansas City. Obviously, with people you knew, Coach Vermeil, Al Saunders, pretty much the same system. I'm sure some of the verbiage changes a little bit, but it shouldn't change a whole lot. And then you go on to have an amazing career as a starter and with very good football teams and really, really good offensive football teams. Unfortunately, I was with the Raiders a couple of those years, and we always played close games, but we just couldn't quite get over the hump. And you had a lot to do with that, making plays and throwing the ball to Gonzalez when you needed a first down or a touchdown. Those are things I remember about those games.
Yeah.
The thing I've joked with you in the past, Norv, is people are like, okay, it took me, as Stephanie, as we talked about, 6 years to become a starter and then get hurt. And so, by the time I, get to Kansas City, so I tell people all the time, I've joked with you, I'm very appreciative. And you talked about the development of quarterbacks. And I talk to quarterbacks all the time about, like, you don't have to jump in. Sometimes it's better to wait. For me, it was better to wait because I learned a lot in those years. Now, I've joked with you, I wish it was maybe 1 year or 2 years and not 4 years. But I do feel that because of that, that I was much better prepared once I got on the field. And as you know, there's so much that goes into playing the position. Not only do you have to play well, but you have to manage so many different things. You have to manage the team. You have to manage the media, manage your family. And there's all these things that go in to being a franchise quarterback, to being someone that's leading a team and leading an organization and for the most part, leading a city in a lot of ways. So I think because of all the valuable lessons I learned, it got me prepared for that moment when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it brings us to another topic. One of the issues I see is these college quarterbacks. I don't know that they're doing those things you're talking about. I think they're playing quarterback and they're throwing the ball and it's all spread and they're just having fun. I don't even know if they read anything. They just drop back and run around and find the open guy, and there aren't great pass rushers. Some of these playoff games now, they're going to be tested because there's some really good defenses. But that's the number one thing that has to get done with these young quarterbacks when they come into the NFL. It's just what you just said. It's not only playing. It's you're the guy. And the players are looking at you, the coaches are looking at you, the media is looking at you, the fans, and there's a way about going about this. And part of the job of the head coach, the coordinators, offense coordinator, the position coach, is to teach those guys that this is the job. Here's what the job is. And some of these young quarterbacks, it does take them a while to understand this is part of the job. It's not just getting back
Right.
and throwing it. And in fact, some of them got to learn that you have to learn everything about the offense, the playbook, like you were talking about, who, when you have to get rid of the ball, when you can hang on to it a little bit longer, all the different details, but then all the issues involved. And then obviously you're not the only guy doing it. The quarterback's not the only guy, but he's the last guy. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. You're the guy with the ball in your hand. You're the last guy who controls this. No matter what we've told you ahead of time, you're the guy that controls it. And you got to understand game situations. You got to understand the clock. You got to understand the score, all the different things involved in playing. And it might sound simple to some people, but when you're out there and those guys are chasing you and you're trying to get a completion, it's anything but simple.
Well, you bring up a great point about developing the quarterbacks that coming out of college, right? There's a lot of guys don't even call a play. It's interesting to talk now in the broadcast booth. I get a chance to talk to a lot of these quarterbacks. How many of them don't call plays in college? They're looking to the sideline, and they're holding up numbers and signs or signals, and all of a sudden you got to step in a huddle and tell 10 other guys exactly what to do. And so being able to step in and verbalize that, being able to get up to the line of scrimmage, and it's funny because in the production meetings, there are some quarterbacks that are like Pro Bowl level quarterbacks, that are really good quarterbacks. And sometimes I don't do it every time, but sometimes I'll be like, hey, what's your process once the play breaks down? You get outside the pocket, you're looking deep to short, you look inside, what's your go through the process. And I can't tell you how many guys are like, Trent, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a problem. Like I'm just out there playing football. I'm just out there looking for the open guy. I'm just playing. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm just like, oh no, no, that can't be. It can't just be like whatever happens. It's like, you got to have, for all the different intricacies of the game, a lot more goes into it. But it's amazing how many of these young quarterbacks from a development standpoint don't come in with a lot. And then how many that have had success when things start to break down, they don't really have an answer or a process for it.
Yeah, and that's the way guys play. And you watch college games, and I'm not in the meetings, and I don't get to visit with them, but I do watch how they play. And pretty much the better quarterbacks in college go back and look for the open guy, and it doesn't seem to be a true process. And it's not the pressure. It's not the pass rush. It's a lot of these guys, they play 3 close games a year, and they're out there beating someone 45 to 13. So the issues aren't, the consequences aren't as great. And the consequences on one bad play in the NFL game, and when 2 good teams are playing, they become pretty extreme.
Yeah, the stakes are a little bit higher. I'm curious, talking about your broadcasting career, what is your preparation like week to week as you go into a game? Do you have a set schedule that you follow?
Well, I try and be as flexible with it as I can, especially now with Zoom meetings. And, a lot of the teams, we don't even go in person anymore. They want to do it by Zoom because it helps them out. It helps us out from a travel standpoint.
Right.
As we talked about, I can watch all the games at home now because everything's digital. I don't have to be there. So a lot of it has changed, but really the process that I go through from a broadcasting standpoint is very similar to what I did as a quarterback. It's just different now. Before I was studying, tendencies and what defenses, what I was expecting of them, and in the red zone on first down, first and second down, third and short, medium and long, different situations. Whereas now from a broadcast standpoint, I start off usually on Tuesday night. I'll dive into the tape and I'll look at least 2 games from each of the teams. And then you have to start learning about the players and as much as you can about the players and coaches, because you have to remember the people that are watching like the specific game that I'm doing are fans of those teams. And that's all they do is they follow those teams. They want to know everything about the team. If I jump on there and I say something crazy about like, oh, this guy has great hands. Well, and maybe he had 10 drops already this season. It's like, so you can't just go out there and just randomly say stuff. You have to study and prepare it. So I usually start on Tuesday night with tape, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I still write everything by hand. I don't do it on tablets or computer. I just find that I remember it better by writing on hand. So I have a bunch of notebooks, as I go through, just trying to learn all the players, learn all the coaches, learn the front office, all the different details that go into it that could potentially come up during the course of a game.
And then, so who do you have this week?
This week I've got the Chargers and Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
So I get to stay home.
Living in Kansas City. Close to those Chiefs now. You unless they're on national TV, you do a few of their games. You get to know them pretty good.
We do, yeah. So so this was, what is it? My 15th year doing Chiefs preseason games. So I go up to camp usually a couple times, and then I'm doing all their preseason games. But then the regular season, as you said, they get a lot of national games. So maybe once a year. I think the most we've had is 2 in a year. But because of their success, they're generally on national. So this is a great game. I mean, the Chargers, they're in second place right behind Denver. The Chiefs are trying to claw their way back into the playoffs. It's I'm really excited about it because it's two good teams, and so you always love calling those games.
Well, the Monday night game was crazy. Talking about quarterbacks getting hit, that was something with the Chargers. I mean, 7 sacks, and what did he have?
Yeah.
Herbert.
He just had surgery.
He had about 12 runs and 7 sacks. He was sore. I promise you, he was sore the morning after that game. That was a challenge. I can tell when a guy has prepared, and I get to see you occasionally, and I know how you go about preparing. I know how Troy prepares. It's probably the same way you and he did for games. But the guys that I laugh because I'm not real good with names through the years. You get worse and worse as you get older. And a guy doing a game, and I don't think you've ever done this. I'm sure someone would mention it if you had, but doing a game and then all of a sudden they say, well, number 10. I mean, when you can't, that's like Buddy Ryan when they 46 defense and they called it 46 because the safety was number 46. He couldn't remember any names at that point. But when you're doing a game and you got to say, oh, 57 made a great play there. I mean, obviously you didn't prepare because one of the things of relating to everyone is at least being able to
say their name,
say the player's name, and
well, I think it's funny that you bring that up because I can listen to I listen to games differently now than I did before because trying to, not that you compare yourself, but like, okay, I would have said that or not said that, and there's when guys have prepared and when guys aren't as prepared as maybe they should be. But yes, that's usually an indicator as well.
That's a dead. They say that's a dead giveaway when they start calling a guy by his number.
So we were.
And I'm not going to mention any names because I'd probably forget who they were, but I do know who they were.
I have an idea who it is too, but we won't call them out here.
No.
So talking about some breaking news, we were just chatting before we got on air about Phillip Rivers, our old friend, signing with the Colts, right? Which is pretty shocking. How many years out? 5 years, we were saying?
Yeah, and he's 44 years old. He's a grandpa now. He's been a high school coach.
I saw someone wrote a joke.
He has a grandchild who's older than their most recent child.
Well, I saw someone posted a joke on Twitter that said Phillip Rivers' wife just found out she won't be getting pregnant this winter.
That's how they chose to announce it.
Yeah, that's how they announced it. Because they have a lot of kids.
I was gonna say, do they have 8 now, or is
10.
they 10?
10.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Well, I know one thing about Phillip: if they'll protect him, he can see it, and I know he can still throw it. He's not going to outrun any of those defensive linemen now. He needs to get, like you said, he better know where they're coming from.
Well, that's the thing. Like, are they able
to
protect him?
He wasn't mobile. He wasn't mobile at 34, let alone 44.
Well, we used to laugh every time he'd have to run and we'd see him start to scramble watching the games. We'd be like, oh my God, oh no, he's running. Like it was never going to be good. But
he's got that quick release. I'm sure he's still got that.
Yeah. Can they protect him?
Right.
And can he take a hit? That's what I'm worried about. I mean, if you haven't been hit for 5 years and
the recovery rate's a lot different at 44. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I go back through the years when I first got to Dallas, and Troy would take off and run, and he could run. He was a straight line, very fast, ran fast coming out of UCLA. But when I first got there, he'd played 2 years and had some injuries. I said, we don't want you running. The guy with number 22 on next to you, that's the guy we want running. And if you can just flip him the ball when you think about running, get him on those little swings. And that's Ernie Zampese loved swing passes and a little M route, which was a half a swing, because he said they can always find him and get the ball to him. And Philip was the best. And it's amazing the number of big plays to either LT or to Sproles where he was stuck, and a lot of guys would have taken off and run with it, and he just turned and flip it to Sproles, and bang, Sproles is running down the sideline, if knowing where those backs are and being able to, like you just said on quarterback when he starts scrambling, have a plan.
Right.
Know who you're looking for.
Yeah.
And if you can get it to LT or get it to Sproles,
those are good options.
We'd much rather see them running with it than you running with it.
Yeah.
100%. Those are good options to have, those two. That's yards after, you're getting yards after catch with those two.
Yeah, but it'll be fun to watch. It's a game that I'll be watching or be watching them.
Well, Indianapolis does have a good offensive line. They have a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. I mean, they've got some pieces around him. And yeah, I mean, their defense, they have a good defense. I mean, it makes sense. If he's still able to throw and still feels physically like he can do it, then, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him.
Shane Steichen, who worked for me in San Diego, and then ended up going back there and was like an interim offensive coordinator. And he and Philip got to be really close. And, so that's the biggest attraction is Philip can go in there and he could probably go in the huddle tomorrow and call the entire sheet. They may have some little changes. This we call this rap. We used to call it, something else. And that part of it will be smooth. And he knows how to prepare and be ready to do it. And he's probably been watching all their games. He's been coaching his son. His son's going to be a highly recruited player and really a good passer. He's actually a little more mobile and quicker and moves around a little better than Philip, even when Philip was 18, I think. But so his mind is geared in, ready to go. That when they get to the fourth quarter, his body might not be feeling that great, but he'll do everything he needs to do.
All right. Well, we are going to let you go, but thank you so much for having us. Before we say goodbye, though, we want to ask you, we have one final question that we ask everybody at the end of the show, and that is, what would you do if you didn't work in football? What do you think you would have done?
What would I have done? Well, forever, all those years on the headset, I thought I'd get into coaching, but that's still involved in football.
Right.
I was thinking that the other day. So this is my 16th year of broadcasting. And if you count the month in Canada, it was 16 years as a player. Mm-hmm. So what I'm like, so to answer your question, it probably would have been in the business world, some way, shape, or form. I went to Indiana for the business school. Mm-hmm. We were a good football program at the time. Bill Mallory was the head coach. So I wanted to play in a good football team and have a chance to, go to bowl games and that kind of thing. But my main draw to Indiana was the business school. So I'm going to say that I would be in either sales or marketing or something along those lines in the business world. So I've enjoyed the football world a whole lot more though.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, we're glad you're in football, but we just always like to ask, because I like to ask this question because so many people pursue a career in sports, and we know the percentages of college athletes that actually make it to a professional sport are pretty low. And I just believe in having other passions, because just like you were able to leave football and you went right into broadcasting, and you found a really great career in that. And it seems like a love for that, and a passion for that. And so I just think it's always important to be thinking about, like, what else could you do? And like, how can we reinvent and pivot and keep our lives being full and passionate, even if we can't do that one thing that we loved?
Yeah. So I've brought up my wife, Julie, several times on this. Julie and I started dating in college. We've been together, a long time, I'll put it that way. And but we joke about that. Think about how much football has given us as a player and as a broadcaster, as a family. It's been everything for us, because, that year I was out of football where I went to Canada for a month. We were already married. So she stayed back in Indiana. Her degree was in teaching. So she was a high school teacher, but because we didn't know where we were going to move, she couldn't do that. So she was actually selling furniture while I went to Canada to try and make a little bit of money. And so we were thinking, if it doesn't happen, you would be a teacher, I'd be business, whatever that was. And our life would have drastically different. Right. And, so football has given us so much, and I'm so appreciative to both of you for having me on. Norv, I think the world of you, as you know. I've told you many, many times, thank you over and over again for, number one, signing me off the street and bringing me to DC, and then number two, making me your starter and obviously helping me in my career. So thank you for all of it.
Well, you earned it all. I mean, you're talking about being a coach, it's putting people in a position to be successful, but the people you put in that position have to do it. Coaching is just a little part of it. You did what you had to do, and that's why you have so much success.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's always great seeing you guys.
All right. And thank you for listening today. Remember to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll see you on the next one.